Well, Nate, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you rescheduling. We had a couple when you rescheduled on us, it was following up like 2 or 3 just really bad reschedules, and we were just like, oh no.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm glad that we were able to find a date that works.
Yeah, you said you had a TV show.
Yeah, I ended up just there was like it was just something that I submitted like through it's called Casting Networks. It's basically like if you've heard of Actors Access or Backstage, it's kind of all 3 of those are basically like LinkedIn for entertainment. Like you just they open roles that you can submit for. So I did this one, and it was like it was a little bit of background work. There were a couple of scenes that I was in, so it was good because it was my first experience being on set, and
nice.
That was like, you never really quite. I don't know, like it's similar to jobs in the real world. You never really know when those kind of opportunities are gonna come again. So I was like, I got to do this.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Neither of us would blame you for something like that.
No.
Cool. Yeah. Phil, am I coming through audio-wise?
Shoot for the stars. You're good. You're good, man. How am I?
You're fine.
Okay.
Cool. Well, let's get this thing rolling and talk some comedy.
Let's do it.
Yeah. For those of you who stuck through that intro, this is Frame This Podcast. My name is Nate. I'm here with my co-host Philippe.
Hey, everybody. Going fast and loose today. Right into it.
Yeah,
we're going to get the laughs going.
Office.
No,
for the first
I'm
time.
I'm in my new office, the car.
We are here with comedian Nate Meeker. I think I found him on Instagram through his impressions, specifically the Ben Shapiro impression, which I thought was fantastic. My younger brother listens to his stuff, and I've always made fun of him for it. Nate, would you mind introducing yourself and telling the audience a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, for sure. First off, thank you guys for having me come on.
Thank you.
This will be a fun conversation for sure.
Woo.
But yeah, I'm a comedian, aspiring actor, content creator. Obviously, as Nate mentioned, I've been kind of posting stuff online, and that's really where I got my start with all of this. Been doing it for a little over a year. I started at the very end of 2020, so probably like a year and maybe 3 months now. And yeah, I moved from Ohio to New York City almost a year ago, and so since then I've just been doing a lot of stand-up comedy, continuing to push the content, just kind of like getting into acting and pursuing this a little harder. So yeah,
that's
excited
awesome.
about a lot of stuff.
So one thing I wanted to talk about was the impact. So my wife and I were talking about the Grammys a week or so ago, and how Olivia Rodrigo got nominated for a crap ton, and she basically got her start off of social media during quarantine, just doing some songs that went viral. How has social media changed comedy and how people ingest comedy? Has that affected like live shows at all? How has that changed your creative process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a lot of people are seeing that, this short form style of media that we're taking in is big, right? Like most of the content you see on TikTok and Instagram and now YouTube Shorts is like 30 seconds or less. So it's almost like the most material that you can get out of the least amount of time is like the way to do it. I think a lot of with stand-up comedy especially, right, it's hard to kind of find little clips and whatnot, little jokes that are like this short form comedy. But I think people are finding a way to do it, and then I'm seeing at least that people are also interested in kind of going and seeing this person live, where like a lot of times before, you would hear about comedians through word of mouth, maybe you'd see them on TV, but now you just see so many stuff come, so many clips and so many different faces come through all these different social media platforms. And I think people are interested to then go see these people in person if they have the opportunity. So I think it's really good for comedians and aspiring comedians to take advantage of that, there's a lot of stand-up traditionalists that will say, no, like you gotta, grind it out, like, do the,
open for anybody and everybody 300 days out of the year.
Exactly, right. And that's not necessarily where things are going, especially if you're just starting out to make a name for yourself. Yeah, like toss your stuff up on social media, and that's kind of a way, if you're good at it, it's a way to skip the line a little bit.
Yeah. Has it changed your writing process at all? Like, what is your, creating short form is, my art isn't as conducive to video as yours is, but how does that creative process start for you?
Yeah, I pull a lot of stuff from things that I can relate to, kind of everyday life. My content, I would say for the most part, is pretty relatable. That's kind of the goal of it. But yeah, as far as writing and stuff goes, you kind of got to toy with it a little bit. And I've noticed, like I was saying earlier, that 30-second mark seems to be a sweet spot. I've done some long.
People just don't have time for anything.
That's the thing, right? Everyone just so you kind of have to mess around with it. But yeah, most of my stuff is short form. So I'm like, look, I can make any of my 30-second videos. I can make them 60 seconds or longer, but I've noticed that it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Save that for when people come and watch you perform, because you have, if you're doing a 10-minute set, you've got more time. People are there to see you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it, is online stuff, unless it's a full-blown sketch with multiple people, be wary of the time.
That's crazy.
How has that affected your performing styles? Do you have to be mindful every time you want to do a bit or something? Okay, I got to do this just for social media and keep it to 30 seconds, or I can expand upon this and keep it going on the stage. How hard has that been, or difficult has that been?
Yeah, it's interesting because there are definitely stuff that I pull from directly from online content to the stage, and I really do just expand on it for the most part. But yeah, a lot of times when I'm writing out jokes, or just not jokes, skits or for videos to put online, I am just okay, keep this under 25 seconds. This concept that you're doing, a lot of times I'll pull from stuff that has worked in the past, but it really is, a different type of delivery at the end of the day. So
it's a different medium entirely. It's right. Like a TV show versus a movie. You don't have, full length to get into everything.
Exactly. And when you're doing online stuff, you don't really have, there's no audience banter back and forth. You're not pausing for laughs. There's no there's no improv, right? You're basically going off of the script that you've written for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Has that always been something? Because you said you moved to Ohio, from Ohio to New York about a year ago. Where did that journey start for you? What did you see yourself being a comedian when you grew up, or is that something that recently there's oh, hey, that is a possibility? Back us up a little bit, and how did that start?
Yeah,
did you come with a guitar and a suitcase in LA, in the Guns N' Roses video?
I wish I could say I did. I really do.
Hitchhike with a 6-pack of Bud Light, like the commercial.
Right. That's the thing. I may as well have, because I didn't have anything with comedy before. I didn't do anything with comedy before this. I was always interested in it, but I played sports growing up. I played golf in college. I studied business. I did everything you're supposed to do as whatever. And then I just I was working from home in the pandemic at my parents' house at the time, which was unplanned. And I just felt like I needed to change his pace. I didn't like my job. I kind of just sat back and is this really what you want to do with your life? And I just started posting videos on TikTok. And after a while, and then at the same time, I started to do stand up a little bit, take improv classes. And then, one thing led to another. And once I gained some traction, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go all in with this. I'm going to move to New York or LA. I ultimately ended up decided to start with New York and, pursue this as a career.
What is what's the difference in comedy scene between the East Coast and the West Coast? In music, it's night and day. Does that happen in comedy? Do the types of jokes that you would write in New England differ from let's say Los Angeles?
Yeah, I haven't performed out in LA. I've seen live comedy out in LA before. And I am guessing that there are definitely those like kind of stereotypical West Coast, East Coast jokes and audiences that you can really dive into if you're like, a native of the area or been, live in the area.
Been there long enough.
Right, you're long enough to get it. So there's a lot of content online and on stage that myself, and, I've noticed other comedians around this area too will really hit hard on stage in New York, or just like the surrounding area. And then I'm assuming West Coast is got to be the same way, because it's not, when you're kind of starting out, you have to appeal to, the audiences that you get the opportunity to be in front of, right? Like when you're just starting out, you're not really getting paid to go perform in front of your fans who are just going to laugh at you about whatever you say. So you kind of have to do, you have to just be mindful of who you're performing in front of.
So when I was in high school, I was on a debate team in high school. And at the beginning of every year, we were given a topic to argue against, and we would build, we would just compile evidence over the course of the year. Do you
homeschoolers had debate teams?
Did.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know, right? It was one of the only extracurricular activities my parents were super on board with. And now we're debating politics with them. It's like, surprise, we're good at it.
Right.
Come back to biting the ass, mom and dad.
Yeah, really. Anyway, do you speaking of engaging with different types of audiences, on a given night, you're using your audience as almost like a springboard for the types of jokes you'll tell. Do you keep a backlog of different types of jokes to use in different situations, or is it just an impromptu, an off the cuff thing? Before your show, you're like, okay, I'm in New Jersey. I gotta tell a different set. There's some jokes that won't work, some jokes that will work. How does that pre-planning process go for you?
Yeah, I think the geographical part of it that just plays a big part in it. I just did a show in Long Island with my roommate, who's also a comedian, on Friday night. Big Italian community, and I'm Italian, so I was able to make Italian jokes. Fast forward to last night, I did 3 shows here in the city, and I tried to make that same Italian joke just because I had just written it, and it just didn't really land as well because most people were visiting New York from other parts, or they're just, it wasn't, it's Manhattan.
They're in town and they want to see a comedy show.
Exactly. Right. So that is something you just have to be wary of because, again, someday if I get a Netflix special and I'm performing in front of people who are coming out to see me, they'll get those kind of jokes. But when you're going and if you're traveling to different places, you just have to think about that. And honestly, if there's no content there, if I go do a show, let's say, for example, if I did a show in the South or Boston or something, I don't really have any personal connections there.
Yeah.
So I can't really make something up.
If you're in Boston, just tell Matt Damon jokes.
Yeah, I could do something. Yeah, I mean, you could think about pop culture kind of stuff. But
Matt Damon.
Yeah. I'm not a co-op.
Yeah. So I wonder how that would go.
Do you have any jokes that almost always go well? Do you have a pocket of jokes that you've found to connect with a pretty universal demographic?
Yeah, there's definitely a few there's definitely several in my set that I consider heavy hitters. You always tell them, they always seem to work. And then there are other stuff that are New York specific or regionally specific. So I kind of try and mix in both.
Are impressions always a winner?
Yeah, typically. I do them. I try and mix them into each set. I don't want to be known as the impressions guy. So I just do right. I just don't. I honestly, they are probably my least favorite thing to do on stage of all the jokes that I tell, just because I don't know. It's just you just have to be tactical with it. You can't get up there and be could you picture if your waiter was Christopher Walken, it would probably sound like that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
no,
everybody knows what to expect.
It's just stupid. So I try and weave them in a way that's a little just more creative and not, people typically like it. So,
and that just opened up a whole other like can of worms for me, question wise.
Oh yeah.
so for impressions, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I think I saw an ad for like the new Sonic, and it reminded me of Jim Carrey in his like early stand-ups, and like he just has like a face that does whatever the fuck he wants it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know with like some acting gigs, like you're restrained by maybe like your height or your ethnicity. Like certain roles are like locked, like when they do a casting call, they need, these parameters locked off. Like for impressions, like are there certain impressions that you can't do just based on like your physicality, or like is it all come down to like the performing side of it? Like how have you like decided which impressions to do and like which not to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like for me, it's it's just a voice. Okay. So like, there's no limits on, I don't think, like what you can do. It's just a voice. As long as you are doing it in a comedic way that's not like offensive to anyone or could be perceived in a certain way. Because like, I mean, I look at the impressions as like I said, just a voice. Just people like, for example, Ben Shapiro. He's Jewish. I'm Italian Catholic, but I don't make any jokes about that part of it. The difference is there with him. Not
necessarily like the offensive part, but just like the fact that they land or not. Like, because I know, like, if someone looks similar, that's easier for them to pull off an impression.
True. Right. No, that's a good point too. And I would say that, there's some truth to that as well. I think there's a reason why when I do impressions of like I do a lot of, awkward white dudes, right? I got the Michael Cera's, Jesse Eisenberg that do well, Ben Shapiro. It just kind of fits the Peter Parker. Yeah. So I agree. Like there's a way that, you lean into it that way, but also it does really well when you do an impression that people don't expect it.
Yeah.
I do Chris Rock on stage now, especially because of what happened a couple weeks ago. And it is just a weapon.
Money.
I close the set every time, and it's like, I'm going to hammer this as long as I possibly can, like until
people stop laughing at it.
Right.
What's the
that being
said,
the
episode of The Office where Michael Scott does a Chris Rock impression and he gets called on.
Yeah.
For like
Nate, I'm gonna get you for gimmick infringement or question infringement, because that's exactly where I was going. Continue.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's the thing, is because that's like, I would say the one that I have that's so.
We just watched it, Phil. I'm sorry. Like it was on yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's
why is it that every time? Never mind. No, keep going.
No, but but where you're going with that, yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. When you do ones like that, like I said, it just seems like the opposite factor. I don't know. The fact that it's not what people are expecting at all really just hits hard. So yeah, I don't know if I'm even trying to think if I have any in the middle somewhere. I'm sure I do, but I've noticed that those two areas are the most successful.
All right, Phil, yeah, you can go. I'm done.
Well, since we're on this topic, we got to get into it a little bit, but I only want to spend a short time on this. Okay, as a comedian, can your jokes go too far?
Just in general?
Yes. There's nothing sacred in comedy.
But also about the climate today versus 80s or 90s. Things have changed.
George Carlin got away with so much crap.
People are woke, quote unquote. Has that hurt comedians? And is comedy still able to go there and push the limit? And I just want to get your opinion as a comedian.
Yeah, I think it's really it's an interesting time because You do have to be mindful. I'm very mindful of what I put online and what I write on stage. I'll say that. However, live comedy is a lot different than on stage. When you're performing at a club, and you're protected by the club. You know what I mean? Like you can say really anything you want. Like if you're what we call passed at a club, which is basically means like they pay you to do shows there, like you're a headliner, stuff like that. Just say whatever you want. People don't like it, they don't like it. But like you're a headliner because you sell tickets, and that's your audience. I know, or I think that comedy just in general, we probably can't push the boundaries as much as we did. I mean, I've only been doing this for a little over a year, so I can't even, speak on it like a ton. But I do know, like from taking comedy from the, like you said, 80s and 90s and stuff. Some of that stuff you probably would not get away with now. Like some of those specials that were on TV in the 90s, even like my guy Chris Rock, like you probably can't say that stuff on TV now, right? So
Eddie Murphy Delirious, man.
Eddie Murphy Delirious, same exact way. Like it wouldn't fly, it wouldn't get picked up, it wouldn't get greenlit. Just crazy, I think it's just ever changing. But I would say now, I would say if you're in a club performing live, kind of like what I was doing last night, say your set. But yeah, if you want to get picked up and like by Netflix or Hulu or something, you can't have any of that stuff on there.
So when a network is picking you up for like, let's say a special, do you have to give them like a list of your jokes, like a script almost, and like they have to approve it before they do that, or they just go off of like what they've seen you do before?
I really have no idea. But I just say I don't know because I haven't had the opportunity to do that. But I'm assuming that you have to give them some of your material. Like I just feel like, especially if it's like your first special, I feel like you have to, because I know that they do that for like sketch shows and stuff, and they say, okay, your producer will be like, all right, you can't say this on, if we're going to air this. So I feel like you have to, but again, it's also it's a live comedy show. And I will say that those are definitely not scripted. So anything kind of goes.
Yeah.
But they do edit it though.
They do, right.
Netflix can go back, I think, and edit stuff out if they don't like it because they are paying you. And I guess that's a contractual thing you got to work out between your agent and Netflix.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that gets hard too because, it probably does come down to contracts because the comedians are like, well, I want that. That was like that's a great joke. That's in my set. And they're like, no, it's too offensive. Like, we don't want that on.
It's like John Mulaney and midgets.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, prime example,
At the same time, I think Netflix wants that sort of comedy, though. They want to be seen, with certain acts, that edginess is there. And that's money, as they say. That's money. So did Chris Rock go too far?
Did Chris Rock go too? Oh, with his joke?
Yes.
Personally, we've heard worse jokes, right? We've heard worse jokes. I'm not saying that it was like I think that like Will Smith could have just confronted him backstage and said, "Hey man, that was super uncool." Like he basically, he could have gotten mad. He could have cussed him out like he did, just done it backstage. And I think it would have been fine. And I think maybe people would have talked about it and said, that Chris Rock joke about Jada Pinkett Smith was a little too far. It was uncool. I don't think it would have made headlines, to be honest. Like I said, we've heard comedians say way worse things. Not like it was super explicit. But part of the job of people who host or present awards to get these comedians at these events is to kind of make fun of the people there. And
it's kind of why you're there.
Exactly. So he's really just doing his job. Chris Rock is my number one. Like I've been the biggest fan of him forever. And I think a lot of comedians are on his side of things with this. But I don't know. I think Will Smith lost his cool in that moment.
Are you waiting for your script for G.I. Jane 2?
I am.
All right. And that's as far as we'll talk about this. Nate Smith.
Yeah.
how do you like, speaking of jokes that go too far, like how do you like the flow of a comedy show is incredibly important. Like one of my friends in high school like loved Mitch Hedberg, like worshiped the guy.
Yeah.
And his comedy routine was basically just a list of one-liners. Like there was no like ongoing like sequence. There was no like no segues, no flow. Like how do you write your jokes to like run into one another? Do you like batch similar topics together and just use that as a natural segue? Or you could do the, what did Dave Chappelle do? He like pulled a punchline out of a hat and then like worked it into the final like act or whatever.
Yeah.
Like how do you arrange your set list?
I wish I could pull just a punchline out of a hat and do that, but I'm not quite at that level yet. But yeah, my set, I do try and stack things that are relatable, easy transitions. A lot of times it's easier to transition things than you think it is.
You look seamless.
Exactly. Like that's all it is. Like if you get done with a joke and your next joke or your next premise has nothing to do with what you just did, that's okay. Just take like a quick pause and just ask the audience, what about this? Like, what about, or how about, like, I have a thing where like, I don't even tell these jokes in order all the time, but like I tell a couple dating jokes in a row. I have a joke about like social media and LinkedIn, and there really isn't much of a huge transition there. It's just like I get done with the dating joke, it'll get a big laugh, and then I'll just kind of just switch topics like that. And maybe it's different for like a little, like when I'm just doing like a 7, 8, 9, 10 minute spot on like a Saturday night show. You do, I kind of have to be quick with it, but yeah, I try and work topics in that make sense, and then just don't trip over your words. I think you're fine.
Yeah.
What happens when a joke bombs?
Oh,
How do
that's
you
a great
recover?
question. I love this question. You just have to take it and just like, you can't take it personally, because the last thing you want it to do is to be like you versus the audience. Mm-hmm. I've never once said that was funny. Like, you guys suck. You guys should have laughed at that. Like, there are people who I've like seen do that.
Come on, really?
Makes me cringe. Yeah, I mean, you just kind of move on from it and trust that like your other material will work. And also, it's even, I would say the way to do it is like, you could acknowledge it and just say, okay, we're still working on that one or something like that. And then everybody kind of laughs because they realize.
Do you pivot because you're so good at impressions? Do you just pivot to an impression real fast as like a character and go, oh, that was shit?
I've never thought about that. I've never done that. I guess I could. That would be a funny way for like me to pivot. But I think what I like, I think it, like I said, if it actually just like bombs and gets no laughs, like I would probably just acknowledge that it got no laughs and kind of show that vulnerability, because the audience appreciates that like you're human, and that, it's just like a quarterback throwing an interception, right? Like you're human, you're going to make like mistakes, and just trust that like you're going to get them to laugh again. That's not the only joke in your set, so. That's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to deal with that.
About sports on this show.
No sports.
I'm terrible at sports.
That was my one analogy then.
Nate Smith sucks at sports.
No,
not playing, just talking about them.
Yeah, I don't know about.
What's a good? Okay, fine. I'll just do. I'll do like art, music analogies. I'll try and think of more of those.
No, there's just one time.
Nate, who's a famous golfer? He's playing this weekend. Yes! Oh my God, you redeemed yourself. Holy shit.
Bravo.
Oh man, there are so many Tiger Woods jokes.
There are.
So you said you were, looking at getting into television. What I've been noticing a lot more recently that movies as a whole, especially with like the advent of Netflix and their direct to platform movies, with Kevin Hart and The Rock starring in half of them.
Right.
What
You can blame that on Hollywood, dude. Hollywood
Yeah.
just likes that same formula. Buddy
They
cop.
do.
What is the
Ching,
like?
ching, ching.
What is the joke writing process look like for a movie versus like a stand-up special? Like, why? I've noticed that Hollywood has like been contracting more and more like personalities, and like you're going to the movie for that actor, not for that character. So you're going to go see Will Ferrell be Will Ferrell, doing XYZ, or The Rock being The Rock doing XYZ. Like, does that change? Like, have you noticed that changing like the writing process versus like sketch TV shows?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, since I don't have experience kind of doing something like that yet, where I'm in a TV show, kind of like you said, for me, I would imagine that like with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart and stuff, there's probably a lot of improv involved with that. There's probably the directors and producers probably just, they give Will Ferrell a script, he likes it, but I'm sure there are a lot of scenes where it's like, hey, dude, just make this funny how you would make it funny. And I think that, Kevin Hart the same way.
Pick the best one.
Right. And they're writing for these specific like actors too, I think. After Kevin Hart is cast, I'm sure that script is reworked to say things. I'm sure he looks at it and has an input as well. So yeah, but I do think improv is a big tool for comedians, obviously, that want to get into acting, because if you're a really good stand-up comedian and want to be you get cast in a TV or in a movie, yeah, people are expecting to see what you have to bring to the table. So I'm assuming that there's some involvement there, and where they just kind of let the comedian just be him or herself.
Has performing on stage changed how you perceive comedy in movies? Like, are you more critical of the way jokes are written or the way that they're executed? Like, you'll be watching a movie, it's like, yeah, that he could have done XYZ instead, and it would have been funnier.
I don't know if I've thought about it that much, mostly because like live performance is just so much different than something that's been edited and shot and, done, 10, 12, 20, 50 takes for different scenes sometimes. Like,
you're protected.
Right. You're very protected. It's just so different. It's hard to compare the two. I will say now, as someone who's been doing stand-up and, does it all the time and is pursuing it, not that I'm necessarily like critical of people, but I'm always like kind of watching and learning while other people are doing stand-up and looking at their styles and how they say jokes, and maybe what there is to learn from that, or, what not to do, or, maybe someone else's style is just different and they're like, okay, don't try and be like that person.
Yeah. What is that learning process like that feedback loop? Like, how do you assess like information? Like, let's say you go to a night and you're one of them, but there's half a dozen other artists performing. Like, how do you rework that? What is your information like digestive loop like?
Yeah, it's really I think a good thing, what I try and pay a lot of attention on, especially from a stand-up standpoint, is how other comedians interact with the audience, because that's like a crowd work is just a skill. It's a separate skill that just is really important to learn, and it takes a long time. So that's what I look for a lot, just because I think that that's an area that I can definitely improve on. And I think that's probably, when you're going in and watching a bunch of people do stuff, kind of like have a goal in mind. Say, okay, I really want to get better at crowd work, so I want to watch how these other 7 comedians do crowd work in their set. Maybe they don't do it at all. Some of them do it better than others. Some of them do it differently than others. Some ask the audience just like a bunch of questions. Like, I kind of like have a goal in mind and say, like, what are you looking to get out of watching these other people? And
you look for specific things and like, take notes either literally or just mentally, like, of what they did well and what you could incorporate into your next.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's what I try and do. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to learn everything all at once, but Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's terrifying.
I mean, that's why you do it. Right. That's why you do all the show. Like, you know what I mean? That's why we do many shows in a week for that reason.
When you do go and do sets, do you have some sets where you're just like, all right, the goal of this is to try these jokes and have like a lab setting and then have your buddy, the next comedian up, like just take notes for you? Or, all right, I'm going 110% today. You know what? It is what it is. I'm going to film myself and we'll see how it goes. Is that sort of the, like when you have performances coming up or sets coming up, is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, it depends, but I definitely am switching it up because you want to get clips of yourself and you want to get clips of yourself performing well. So typically I will try and do that. I try and record like every set that I can, but weekend shows are always packed. So that's a good opportunity to get clips of yourself and do your best stuff. During the week, Monday through Thursday, still good shows around here, obviously, but that's a really good opportunity to kind of work in new material and try that crowd work that I just said. It's lower stakes. These shows aren't sold out every night.
People are going to remember you if it goes poorly.
Exactly. It's a Monday night, right? You're in a smaller comedy club. Maybe there's 30 people there, 40 people, 20, whatever it is, and you're just kind of you're kind of riffing. You're telling new jokes. You're interacting with the audience a little bit. There's, like I said, the lower the stakes, the more comfortable I feel not telling the greatest hits. Like because you can't tell. You can always tell the same jokes, but you can't get stuck on them. You have to at least like always be trying to think of incorporating new material or finding new material, or because if you have opportunities and someone says, hey, I need an opener. Can you open for me? I need you to do 20 minutes and you only have 10 minutes of material. Then you're kind of stuck. Right. So it's just important to continue to work out new material. It doesn't all have to be perfect in that 20 minutes, but it's important to at least tell it on stage so you're comfortable doing it. And then if you do have like some opening spot where you're doing 20 minutes for the first or second time, it's not the first time you're telling that joke in front of people.
No. Do you test your time limits out like on camera?
I do. Well, what they do in the clubs is like they'll tell you beforehand how much time you're doing. So if I have 8 minutes, there's always a light in the back, and that light comes on when you have 1 minute left, and you can tell them how I say just light me at 1 minute. That tells me to wrap it up. But yeah, I always try and record myself too, and I always like to see how close to that that 8 minutes can I get.
You're like, this joke, that's about, like 45 seconds. Just joke here, that's like 30, and you just like add your time up and see how long you're.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just takes a while, not even a while, but it just takes a little while to kind of feel that out and feel how long each joke takes.
Are there times where you have to stretch the time out and like literally mentally talk slower? Like when I'm giving, like a speech, I talk really fast, and it might just be nerves. It might just be, how my, vocabulary is, but like, do you ever have to like slow or speed up depending on how many jokes more you want to tell?
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I kind of say things fast too. I could probably do a better job of like pausing different times, like wait till the audience is done laughing, like before you say the next thing. Drawing stuff out is important because it allows you it just buys you more time, to elaborate on like your joke or your set and like maybe like emphasize it a little more. If you just kind of say things quickly and don't emphasize stuff or have any pauses or whatever, then they don't hit as hard because it just sounds like you're talking, you are giving a speech, right? You don't want it to be like you're giving a speech. You want to kind of go up and down with your voice and how you say things and whatnot. So yeah, I'm always kind of mindful of that.
Phil, you looked like you had a question.
No.
Processing everything you just heard.
I know.
Yeah.
If
my
any
face
of you
does
guys
that sometimes.
you guys want to try stand up, hopefully this is at least a little bit of help.
Yeah, no, that's something we also like to. Yeah, Phil's never gonna. I've toyed with it. One of my friends, he wanted to do like a roast for his birthday, and I was just like, oh, now I have to.
Oh, okay.
I thought we were doing that for our birthday.
I mean, we can. My wife doesn't think I can take it.
I want to roast your ass so bad, Nate.
Me?
But then you get to roast my ass.
Yeah, there we go. No, I thought about doing a roast for my 30th.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, but how do you like? You said you don't take stuff. You try not to take stuff personally. Like, how do you deal with like vocal hecklers? Like, not just a joke landing poorly. Like, how do you deal with people that are just like either too drunk or, just kind of like being dicks?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I have to be completely
It's different
honest.
than nothing. It's
right.
Like, it's in the other direction.
Right. Exactly. And I have to be completely honest. Like, I haven't had many bad experiences with that yet. I think the big thing is, if someone is heckling you and being a dick to the comedian, everybody else in the audience is on your side, not the heckler side. So the best thing to do is acknowledge that person and roast them, pretty much. Like, that's a good way to do it. And, have a good comeback for them. It's hard to just sit there and ignore them if they do it multiple times. That's an option. But like I said, if you ignore them once, they do it again. It's hard to just, because then it kind of ruins the show for everybody else. But yeah, I mean, I would say just be ready. You got to have thick skin and just be ready to go back at that person. Like, right. And a lot of times people are drunk. They're, people always think that they can do stand up. They're like, oh, I could get up on jokes and tell stage better than this guy. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people have that mindset, and you just kind of have to deal with it in a way that, fortunately it's stand-up comedy, so you don't really have to be all that professional. You just have to be funny with your comeback.
Funnier than the other person.
Exactly.
Aren't you glad that they don't throw rotting fruit at you or vegetables at you anymore?
I'm glad. If that happened to me, I definitely would destroy my confidence.
Like, how did you survive? Right. How did you survive as like a medieval comedian or like a Renaissance comedian when the crowd had rotting vegetables or rocks or just mud to throw at you? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be, I feel like I'm fortunate now where those objects,
in the 21st century.
That's right. I don't even know if those objects are allowed in comedy clubs now.
No.
But if I was a medieval comedian, yeah, I mean, hey, thanks to those guys. They started this whole art form, and they took the beating for us, so we don't have to do it now. So
many heads were lost.
Right.
Many heads were lost.
That's the thing. People probably were killed for being bad comedians. I wouldn't be surprised.
How what is like, so let's say you're you're at Starbucks or something getting a drink, and somebody asks you like, what do you do? Like, and you come like, oh yeah, I'm a comedian. Like, what is like your general public reaction? Like, what are people's like first reactions usually when you tell them that you're a comedian?
Is they're like, oh, no way. They're like surprised, because it's
tell me a joke.
Right,
now.
Some people do that, and I hate that. And I hate when people who recognize me from TikTok or Instagram tell me to do an impression. It's like, oh, you can do that Jesse Eisenberg voice. Do it right now. I'm like, no, not going to do it. Like, we're in a public.
I'm not on command.
We're literally like at a bar. It's just like, it's a loud music. I'm like, this is super weird. Like, it's just, that is weird. But yeah, I don't know. Most people are just like surprised, I guess, mostly because I don't look like a comedian. That's probably the last thing that people would guess. Either that a professional athlete. So, it's a good icebreaker, if anything.
Yeah.
So, looping back to what you'd said before, so you were a business major. You did what I guess people told you to do. Like the whole thing in the graduate plastics. You got to go into plastics. So you into business. What was sort of the like epiphany that you had, or the realization that you had that, man, this is not what I want to do with my life? And I really think comedy is where I want to go. Like what got you in that direction?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of it was, needing a change of pace, just being at home, like not really enjoying the work I was doing, pandemic, living at home. And then also just coupled with the fact that I guess I just realized I didn't want to be just another guy for the rest of my life. My whole life, I felt like I was just another guy. I was a business major. I got a good job with a good company. And I was just like, do you really want this? And so not necessarily that I wanted like fame and recognition, but I wanted to do something like cool. You know what I mean? I enjoy telling people that I'm a comedian. I didn't enjoy telling people that I was a consultant. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to do something that I was proud of and that I thought was just cool and interesting. And, I think I'm glad that I discovered that and had that epiphany at 24 than 44,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So was comedy always in the back of your mind, or you always, did impressions or like to get up in front and, tell jokes to people? Was that always something that you did and enjoyed doing?
I always did impressions. My friends would always I'd always do it around friends and family, but I never got on stage for anything. I never did any performing stuff. I kind of looked at stand-up as a way to I don't even know if I was ever I want to be a stand-up comedian when I started this. It was more so stand-up comedy is a great way to be a better writer, get exposure, become better at performing, because everyone's garbage when they start. I mean, I was garbage at stand-up when I started. So yeah, it was more I always did impressions, and I feel that was the catalyst, that's why I blew up on TikTok, is because the impression videos did really well. Since then, I've been able to kind of create more characters and do stuff and not just get sucked into that niche only. But yeah, that was the only thing that I really did just for fun, to be honest.
Have you ever thought about writing your own animated show and doing all of the voices for it?
That would be cool. I've written I've written a pilot with my friend, not animated, but a comedy drama, that was super fun. I would like to do more of that, but I haven't done an animated. I'm sure I could though. You know what I mean?
Like a Family Guy type deal where you voice half the characters, right? Big Mouth or Nick Kroll's everybody.
Right. I haven't thought about that as much, but that would be fun. Maybe it's because I haven't thought about writing for animation before. That's a whole separate thing.
Well, maybe you could test it out on do an animated version of whatever your next TikTok video is.
Yeah, that's true.
Find somebody that does animation.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you allowed to do animations of other people?
You can. I've seen people do it.
South Park does it all the time.
Oh, okay, yeah. South Park, yeah, that's true. But they're also backed by a large multimedia conglomerate that just goes, whatever you want.
Right. They've got the lawyers for that.
We'll defend you.
They have a disclaimer that says this isn't actually anybody that's voiced by real people.
That saves your ass too. Yeah, that saves your ass too. Yeah.
There are probably legal hurdles that you have to jump for that to be okayed, I think.
Hey, why not? Just do it. You're still young.
Fun of some people without them knowing about it. There's whole reaction videos with celebrities and their South Park jokes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
Kanye still doesn't get the fish sticks joke,
right? I feel like you could do it. I don't know. I'll look into it. Honestly, I'm kind of curious now. Would I get sued? I don't know.
I mean, the worst thing they can tell you to do is stop.
That's true. I could say I didn't know, because I really don't. So
no, I asked that because I've been looking into getting into animation and
gotcha.
Watching more animated TV shows. It's been really cool to see how different people do it differently.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know. It could be a fun segue. Maybe write a pilot and see if anybody wants to pick it up. I don't know.
We'd be interested here. You have 2 supporters.
Yeah.
We'll go to bat for you.
You know what? Then
group of 1.
Tell all your friends, and we'll go and we'll make it happen.
So, if you were to give anybody, if you were to teach a class on starting comedy, what pieces of advice would you give younger people interested in getting into improv, getting into comedy, like how would you encourage them, or like how would you like educate them on what to expect?
Yeah, I would say that it takes a long time. Definitely, it doesn't hit all at once. I even with the online thing, I think having an online presence is critical. Almost, it's just like necessary these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got people who are like, how come this TikTok didn't do well? Why am I not getting any views? Like stuff like that. And it just takes time to find out your comedic voice, what you're good at, what is gonna help you separate you from the pack. Because at the end of the day, you have to be unique. And what is that unique thing that you do that's gonna, get some traction, or that you can use as like part of your comedic voice? For me, it happens to be impressions.
So you get your foot in the door with your
right.
one thing, and then, like diversify after that.
Yeah, I mean, at least how that's worked for me. But for people just starting out, I think everybody just wants it to happen right away because they see people, or maybe they know someone who went viral for a stupid video, or did, they're like, why can't I go viral? Like, and it just it still took me.
Why can't I?
Right. I can do this. I'm funny. My friends tell me I'm funny. It's like, it doesn't always work that way.
It's the millennial crutch.
Fucks people.
It's the millennial crutch.
I hate Instagram's algorithm so much. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I'll tell you the same thing. It's just on different scales for different people. That's all.
Yeah.
Like people with millions of followers hate the Instagram algorithm.
They should have a consultant board of people that are doing well on Instagram. Like, what would you like to see from our algorithm? How can we best serve you?
I would love that.
Mark would never allow that.
No,
he wouldn't. Definitely. Unfortunately, he wouldn't.
No. Give me your information. We're not going to tell you anything.
Right.
Hey, Mark Zuckerberg's a good one for you.
Yeah.
Of what? Oh, the impression.
I do the Jesse Eisenberg from The Social Network. People love that one. So I feel like I gotta, that one I always try and hammer down.
So you inadvertently do Mark Zuckerberg. Okay,
I do.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So people kind of just, yeah.
You've earned it. You've earned a fan today.
Inadvertently. What I guess I could do a video of them too. Like if I got an actual Mark Zuckerberg, I could do them two interacting with each other. It would be kind of funny.
It'd be really funny.
Maybe I will do that. It's a good idea. We're onto something here.
When you run into yourself at the bar and it's like, what was the SNL skit with Andy Samberg playing Nicolas Cage?
Yes. Yeah.
And they're at the same table.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm Nick Cage and I always get
Nick Cage.
Yeah. Could very much be something. I could pull it off.
It'd be funny.
God, those are the days on SNL. Fuck. Fuck. Those are the days. Lonely Island.
I miss good
days.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
Well, cool. Nate, thank you so much for hanging out and talking comedy with us. Do you have any like asks of the audience, like anything you would like for us to ask our audiences to interact? How can they interact with you? Like, how do people find you on social media? That was the most awkward segue ever.
and also go to your shows.
If you're in New York, go to the shows.
Right. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me on. This was a super fun conversation. Always love talking comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
two non-comedians. You're
right.
welcome.
Exactly. I'm glad. And again, glad this was informative. You guys asked some good questions, and
we do it for the fans.
Right. That's why.
Our 120 fans.
Guys have good hearts.
My almost 30-year-old brain works sometimes.
Yeah. I would say just for me, if you guys want to, people can check me out on TikTok or Instagram, and I've got a website where I post all my shows, natemeeker.com. If you guys, I'm starting to do shows, not always just in New York. Like I said, I was out in Long Island. I've got one in Hoboken, New Jersey in May. So I'm kind of starting to branch out a little bit. So who knows? Maybe I'll be in one of your cities someday.
DC.
We're in Virginia. We'll probably come through DC first.
DC. Cool. If you ever come to DC, I'll be there.
Sounds good.
I'll be the heckler in the back going,
We'll bring the tomatoes.
my boner.
Yeah, you guys do everything that we said not to do. Bring tomatoes, heckle, do all that.
Shut up, Phil. I'll go.
It'll be part of the act.
We'll be like the two old Muppets at the Muppet Show, like up in the balcony, like.
Exactly. Let's just
Why don't we do that? Why do we've never done that for Halloween, Nate? I don't know.
What are you doing this year?
That would be our thing. That would be our thing.
I don't think people would get it.
Wow. You think people are that out of touch? I guess they are. What can I say?
Well, how would you dress up as two old guys, expect people to know that they're Muppets?
Well, you got to do the laugh. We all end on the joke of the and then one of us falls off the balcony or something like that. No, we have the balcony with us. We take the balcony with us.
Yeah, you got to build. Yeah, you got to build the whole scene. I think people would get it.
There you go.
Yes, let's do it.
Well, Nate, anything you're doing, and that we got a 2-week sort of release here. So anything coming up that we should let everyone know about?
I would say I've just got some shows that I'm doing in New York over the next couple weeks at some different spots.
If you got any flyers you want us to post or reshare, we can.
Yeah,
any names you can remember at this point in time? I know they're probably on your phone in a calendar, but anything else
they
off
are.
Your head?
Well, I'll be at Broadway Comedy Club next weekend again. That's where I was at last night. I'll be at the Late is the name of the bar. I've never been there. I think it's a club. Never been there, but that is on the 27th or 28th. I'll have to look again. Again, this is all just going to be on my website. So,
Sweet.
People.
Anything called Guido's R Us?
Nothing. No, nothing there.
Nothing there. Okay.
Still waiting.
Okay.
Phil, is that an actual place?
Yes, it is. It's on the shore. It's, big lights. It smells like garlic and cheap perfume. So there you go.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
Has my sarcasm I've lost. So this is why I don't do stand-up comedy, and we'll probably end it on that one. Phil's failed joke of the day. Thank you, Nate. So much for this. Yes.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Everyone listening, you can find us at Frame This Podcast on Instagram, Twitter. We don't have a TikTok yet because we're not that funny. Check out our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your major podcast. And everybody, stay safe. Oh, I took that from Nate. Shit, I wasn't supposed to do that.
Okay.
Stay creative. Stay safe. Stay creative. Stay hungry. See you, everybody.
Thanks, Nate.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.